Do employers stereotype new starters? Welcome to Australian Mining for New Starters, and in today's video we're going to have a chat about how the standards for employment work in the production mining jobs, specifically the hard rock underground jobs. Because if you type underground into Seek, you will see all these entry-level jobs come up, and they're all over the country. And recently I've got into a conversation with someone that's applied for one of these jobs that on the face of it looks like they've got all the relevant experience, but for some reason they're not getting a response. And I just wanted to do a video on how some of these employers can be a little bit fickle depending on the experiences that they've had along their way in their career. So one of the big rules that they've got is that if you failed in your first mining job within the first 6 months, that a majority of them will not pick you up. The other big rule that a lot of them have is that they don't particularly enjoy employing shutdown workers. Now, I know that doesn't sound wonderful, and I agree with you completely, but over the last 20 years, and the last meeting that I sat in, this was in 2019, just before COVID, in a HR meeting for one of the big mining companies, and the senior HR person was adamant that they would not be touching any people that had done shutdown work in the past. And it's not everybody's fault, it's all about being tarred with the same brush, but there's been a lot of rules brought in, and there's been a lot of rule breaches by shutdown workers, and there's been a number of employers that have taken on shutdown workers and had bad experiences with them, and so they just won't, as a general rule, want to repeat the chance of that experience happening again. And that also goes for other industries. And with the guy that I was talking about before, it could be as simple as the fact that 6 months ago they hired somebody else with the same sort of experience, because he's got some mining experience, and they might have hired somebody with the same type of mining experience from the same site, and that person for whatever reason didn't work out. And then that's where you get your stereotype issues. I always tell people this, if they've just hired 3 plumbers and all of them have failed, God help you if you're a plumber applying for a job, one of these entry-level jobs, because you're just not going to get a look in, because that's the way it rolls. And the same token, if they've got if they've had 2 or 3 people that have been, bakers that are all worked out, they're looking for bakers all of a sudden because they think that they're going to work. They have such a high failure rate for these jobs that people get gun shy really quickly when they're doing the hiring. So if they've just recently had a bad experience with somebody that meets the same sort of criteria that you've got, or the same sort of experiences you've got, then sometimes you're just shit out of luck. Unfortunately, they're not prepared to look at that person. They're going to go in a different direction. I mean, I used to joke about it years ago. We'd go through 3 or 4 months of hiring young people until the young people started to fail. Then we'd go through 3 or 4 months of hiring women, and then the women would start to fail. And then so we'd go through 3 or 4 months of hiring only people that were labourers, and then they'd start to fail. And then we'd go through 3 or 4 months of hiring people that were older, and then they'd start to fail. And then it's back to the start again, and then you hire somebody or a couple of people and they work out, so they think, we're on to a good thing, and then they try and narrow it down so they don't have so much failure, and they keep on going like that. But it only lasts for so long, and then the failure kicks in, and then it's one failure after another, so then it's back to the drawing board, and they just keep on repeating the cycle around. So sometimes, with some of this stuff, unfortunately, it's what happens, what's going on around the time when you're applying. That's why it's really important to apply for as many of the jobs as you can. You can use the mining jobs to apply apply for page. Once you've done the training to do that, we load up all the jobs from around the country that we think you should be applying for. But the other big thing that you can do is, if you've got some mining experience, go and get the actual mining experience that they want, and you can do that using the sponsors training. $495. It's got all the information in there, and if you've done the training and you can put it on your resume so it looks like that, you know, I'm yet to meet a foreman that doesn't want to interview somebody that's got this sitting in the middle of the front page of their resume. The reason being is it only takes 5 minutes to ask you a few questions on whether, you know, on how the mine works, and, you know, a bit on scaling or watering down, or, you know, tag boards or whatever, and you know, it doesn't take long to work out whether you've studied or not. And if you've studied, you know, woohoo, you know, they've got an easy win. They've got some low-hanging fruit, because all they have to do is teach you how to drive the truck, because you've done the hard bit for them by teaching yourself how the mine works, because that's what everybody struggles with all these jobs, and that's why there's the consistent amount of jobs, and that's why they turn over so many people. It's easy to teach you how to drive the truck. It's not easy to teach you enough about how the mine works so they can leave you alone safely to get on with the job. So yes, employers definitely stereotype with new starters, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. And the best way around it is to offer them something, you know, offer them what they want, somebody that knows how their mind works. And when you can do that, that's how you're going to get the job that you're after. So I hope that answers your question. And like I'm trying to communicate to the guy that I'm talking to at the moment that it's probably not really, you know, anything much to do with him. And there's, you know, a lot of other jobs that you can be applying for that are up the same alley. But if you do educate yourself, then you give yourself a much better chance. So I hope you found that information helpful, and if you could share this information around and like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.